going to share my screen. I'm sharing my screen. All right. Well done. I always found this chapter particularly interesting. The question, not this one, the question is, where does aggression come from? Why, what causes aggression? Are there functions to aggression? Is it, are we like normally aggressive animals, or do we learn aggression? Right. So first, let's define aggression. It's like Penn Station in here, like just people just going. Anyway, sorry. Aggression is intentional behavior aimed at causing physical harm or psychological pain to another person. What's the difference between violence and aggression? How do you know when something's violent and when something is aggressive?
Isn't violent the act of being violent, and aggression is you're acting aggressive, not being? I don't know.
So one of the rules is that we stick to is we never use words to define words. You say, well, aggression is acting aggressive. So what's the difference between violence and aggression? I don't expect you to know this.
Oh, well then.
But I thought maybe you would come up with a good, possibly. I'm going to give you guys credit.
I've got for you.
Benefit of the doubt.
I was on time. I'm awake.
Shocking, I know. Yes.
This is what you get.
Is aggression like the I want to say the behavior, like the mood, and violence the act?
No, it says right here, aggression is intentional behavior.
True.
Yeah. Because we often use these words interchangeably, don't we? But there really is a difference between violence and aggression. So aggression is where you're playing by the rules, understanding. Violence, there's a victim. It means you've gone beyond the rules. So if you're sitting down at a restaurant and someone walks up and just smashes a bottle over your head for no reason, that's a violent act. So if you're sitting in a restaurant, you see somebody across the room, and I don't know, you say something, they say something, then you say something, and they say something, they stand up, you stand up, he pushes you, she pushes you, you push back. That's aggression. Aggression's a tit for tat. You're playing by the rules based on expectations. Violence is where you've gone above beyond the expectation. You've broken an understanding.
Am I the only one hearing like a lot of feedback from somebody?
Yeah, it's very bad.
Okay.
I hear
like bubbling or something.
Yeah.
I heard a little bit of it, but I don't hear a lot of it. Do you still hear it?
No.
Oh, Mallory. It was Mallory. Dirty dog, Mallory. Mallory, I don't know if you can hear me, but I fixed your exam. I just fixed it, though.
Okay. Well, at first I couldn't really hear you talking, so I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's because I was on mute, I think, or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So what the two kinds of aggression, there's instrumental and there's hostile. So instrumental, you're aggressing as a means to gain something. You're it's like holding a store up, robbing a store, stealing someone's car. You're aggressing to do something, to get something. Hostile is doing it to cause injury, like you're doing it to inflict pain. Okay, so hostile aggression, the goal here isn't to gain something for you, it's to just simply cause them pain of some kind.
Can I ask a question?
No.
Okay.
Yes, Mimi. I don't know why you always do that, but go ahead.
There is one of them comes genetic and the other from the bad experience we gain through life.
Okay.
I'm asking.
So you're asking where aggression comes from?
I know I'm asking the yes, is it genetic or is it from the bad experience we go through so we become aggressive?
Good. Okay. Mimi, you know this answer already. It's a very good question. That's a very, very, very good question. You guys, those are the questions you should ask about all behaviors. To what degree is this genetic? To what degree is this environmental? And Mimi, you know the answer. You know it. You tell me.
Well, I think it's both of them.
Correct.
Okay.
Is it always genetic?
No,
Good.
I don't think
Is
so.
it always environmental?
Still no.
Good. Good. It's an interaction between the two. In some cases, there are genetic predispositions for people who don't produce the right kinds of enzymes to break down neurotransmitters. We're going to talk about those later in the brain. You compound that with bad life experiences and they become violent offenders.
Okay.
Very good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good job. All right. Okay, so there's the evolutionary view, right? So did we adapt to have it this way? Did we evolve? Was it beneficial to our ancestors? We know that there are differences between the genders or sexes. We know that it doesn't matter where you are, that males are going to be typically more aggressive than females. So according to the evolutionary theory, males behave aggressively to secure their status, and the female will then choose the male who offers the greatest protection and resources. This makes sense. Just look beyond the human species. Just look at birds. Look at ungulates, which are hoofed animals. Look at any other species that reproduces sexually. So males will aggress jealously. This ensures their paternity, meaning if they show aggression rooted from jealousy, as in, who are you talking to? Who are you spending time with? Right? If this is the case, hey, stay away from my female. That's my female. I will punch you. I will stick you with my antler or something, right? This ensures that when the girl, the female, I guess in this case, because it's not a human, if the female, when she's pregnant, it's his, right? So he's devoting his resources to the one that he's chosen as well. This is his role in what we call sexual selection, right? So we know females are almost always the one for species to say to the males, not you, nope, not you, no, maybe, let me look. All right, you seem to have the most to offer me, and I'll take you. More realistic, more pragmatic, right? And so females of different species are going to be weighing, the costs and the benefits. Where males, what can they do? What control do they have? And that is, all right, well, if I want to get some action, I need to start proving my worth. I need to go I don't know, go bite that male over there. I'm gonna go bite him and maybe he'll go away and I can steal that berry bush. I don't know, something, right? That's the control he has. Glad you find this funny, Autumn. What we go through, females and males, it ain't easy. All right, testosterone. Greater testosterone is linked to greater aggression. But these are correlational, not causal. Okay, boys being boys. Boys are more likely than girls the world over to roughhouse and pummel each other. Is this evidence of hostile or instrumental aggression or just physical play? Look at this kid. Look at that kid. My goodness. If that were my son on top, I'd be so disappointed. Man, Is aggression innate, right? Oh, good Lord, is it innate or is it learned? Well, they tested it in other species of animals. Let's go with the cats and the rats, right? Kittens raised with rats become close companions. They refuse to chase or kill other rats as well. So they learned, hey, I can be friends with these things. So I'm just not going to bite any of them. But you look at chimpanzees, they hunt and kill each other. There he is. Bonobos, they make love, not war, right? So when they have conflicts, have sexy time. Sorry, young man. So when people say that aggression is, quote, natural, they often point to our primate relatives, the chimpanzees. And these are pretty belligerent and aggressive, but bonobos on the left would rather make sexy time.
Oh,
That's
maybe
right.
I'm a bonobo.
And these chimpanzees, right? Chimpanzees are pretty smart, right? In other classes, if you're a psych major, you're going to learn about tool use. And I wish that I had taught. I wish I could teach for a 4-year institution, because that would be something that I would be teaching. Just general and animal behavior course. And man, I'll tell you what, non-human animals are interesting as heck. Okay. Culture and aggression. Aggression is an optional strategy, right? So we have the capacity for aggression, right? But our expression of aggression depends on the circumstances as well as our culture, right? So changing social conditions can change behavior. Aggressiveness increases as competition increases within our environment. So the Iroquois, right? They were for time ever, they were always a peaceful and harmonious tribe in North America. But as soon as the Europeans settled, they're like, hey, we'll give you some things for some furs and whatnot, right? The Hurons wanted some of that action too. So you know what happened? They started fighting. They started going to war. They were fine before us. So what does that mean? It means that when we are competing for resources, just think of birds, right? There's fighting. There are cultural differences in aggression. Cultures embedded with cooperative collectivistic values have lower levels of aggression. Makes sense. They're interdependent. They define themselves based on their affiliations with others. Why do they want to fight with it? They don't want to fight with them. That makes no sense at all. But then we have even these regional differences within our cultures, right? So we have the U.S., the United States culture, just in general, right? Just here's the American culture, you know. You know what song I really can't stand? Every time I hear this song, it makes me so angry. And it's weird because it came out during a time where I should really like it. It's that I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know. I abhor that song. I hate that song. That is so nationalistic. That is so like ethnocentric. I cannot, thank you. I cannot stand that song. That is not sending a good message. You could be proud. You can be, patriot. That's fine. Be proud to be an American, but goodness, or at least I know I'm free. You think you're the only free people? Good Lord. All right. But okay, so that's our culture, right? But then we have these subcultures, these regional differences, right? So you look at the South and the Southwest, right? So you have people who made a living off of growing corn and wheat and whatever people grow, right? Soybeans, something, right? And then they had to cooperate to survive, right? So with each other, hey, you you pull those weeds and I'll pull those weeds, huh? What do you think? Sound good? I'll trade you some corn for some soy. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it because I don't like tofu, but let's just say we do it anyway, right? Now you're cooperating. You got the herding cultures, right? The raising cattle, right? Herds were vulnerable. So to decrease the likelihood of theft, people were hyper vigilant, right? And hyper alert and respond to threats with force. No one's going to say, hey, look at that guy over there. He's a wimp. And his job is to grow corn for the community. No one's going to just sneak up in his cornfield in the middle of the night, smack an ear of corn, and go, yeah, and the whole field's going to run off. It's not going to happen. But somebody could say, look at that guy. He's a wimp. And other people could be watching, and if he doesn't do anything, they'd be like, hey, you know what? He didn't do anything. Let's go steal his cattle. So it developed a culture of honor. And so in these regions, specifically the herding regions, men will respond aggressively to restore status. Right? So here's a shootout. Hey, you're going to take my corn? I think not. All right. Gender and aggression. Physical aggression. Men are more likely to be perpetrators, meaning they're the ones doing it, of extreme violence in families. And they are more likely to inflict more serious injuries. And I'm not saying most men, I'm just saying more often than women. But there are no gender differences when it comes to physical aggression with our partners. But there are also no gender differences when we're talking about less violent aggression. So in this slide coming up, it's going to give you a little graph, little chart, right? Where they compare men and women in relationships, who does what to whom kind of thing. So you'll find that interesting. All right. So relational aggression, harming another person through the manipulation of relationships. Ooh, these are the women. Women more likely to backbite than men, gossip, more likely to, hurt people relationally, males physically. So now I'm going to look at this slide. Before we go to the next slide, before we look at that chart, let's say you have a heterosexual couple, a man and a woman in a relationship. When it comes to different things, different acts of aggression, I'll give you one, violent and somewhat less violent. Here's a good example. Who's more likely to pull the other's hair? Is the man more likely to pull the woman's hair, or is the woman more likely to pull the man's hair in a relationship? They actually measured that.
I would say the woman.
Me too.
The woman is more likely to pull the man's hair?
Yes.
No. No. Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
So when it comes to pulling hair, 10.4%. Wait, these are the victims. I'm sorry. Yes, no, it is the men that are more likely to do it to the women. So the women are more likely the victims of hair pulling, who are hurt by their hair pulling, than the men. What are they going to do? How much hair can you grab from a man? But if you look at this one, and this is the one I think is interesting, when it comes to slapping, they're almost equal. Women and men are always slapping at each other. Aggressively and non-aggressively. Like if I had a nickel for every time, maybe not my wife, but I've seen, you see it on TV. Women always like, you dummy. It's always slapping, right? Even in play, right? But then if you look at the more serious ones, like slammed against something, women are the victims. It's like a 9-1, like an 8 point something. Actually, it'd be like an 8-1 because it's 2.7.
Well, generally, men are rather bigger than women. So, if they wanted to, they couldn't. And that's kind of unfair.
That's correct.
You should give them a fighting chance.
And that's the same, and very good. And that's the same thing when it says tried to hurt by choking or suffocating. Like, how's that going to work? That ain't going to work. Burned on purpose. Woo!
Yeah, that's the one that I was reading. I was like, wow, heterosexuals get nasty.
Use a knife or gun. See, I get the knife or gun thing because I watch a lot of like Snapped and forensic files and stuff like that in the first 48. Because we're going to learn later when it comes to weapons, if you got access to it, it increases just simply by having it. It increases the likelihood of aggressing, or at least even using it, just aggressing in general. So I get that, but burning, man, that takes a special burn.
My daughter loves forensic files, but she keeps calling it Fernestic files, and it is hilarious.
It's cute. That's cute.
Forensic files.
Fernestic.
Her face gets so red as soon as she realizes it matches her hair.
Like her face just disappears.
She's such a little investigator though. Like she'll be watching and she's like, why would they do this when they know that they're going to get caught and that they're lying? And it's so cute.
Yeah. You say it's the heat of the moment. It's the passion. So let's see. What are some other big ones that we should probably address? Slapped, pushed, or shoved. slightly more women are victims than men. Any physical violence, slightly more women than men. Any severe, twice is more likely for women than men. So there's a term that we should, and you probably heard this if you've taken a course with Professor Foley, the affordance of opportunity. Corey already referenced it. The affordance of opportunity is simply put, if you want to know if somebody or something will do something, all you need to know is, do they have the opportunity to? And if they do, well, then it's going to increase the likelihood that they will. And because, like Corey pointed out, because men on average are larger in size and in strength, well, they have the opportunity that women don't. And it is that simple. So women and relational aggression. Males and females can be equally aggressive when aggression is defined as intending to harm another person, but whereas men are more physically aggressive, women are more likely to indulge in relational aggression, backbiting, shunning, spreading false rumors about their target. Learning to behave aggressively. The social cognitive learning theory states that people learn social behavior through observation and the imitation of others. And this has both positive, which would be altruistic, and negative, which would be aggressive social behaviors. So the question, will watching an aggressive model cause children to behave aggressively? Well, in the classic Bandura Bobo Dow study, the Bobo Dow is a thing where it stands up like this, it's got sand on the base, and you hit it and it goes, okay. So the children were exposed to an aggressive model, right? Where they watched on video an adult knocking around, hitting it with hammers, and punching it, right? This Bobo Dow, they're watching a video. And then the control group were children who were not exposed to this aggressive model. Then they just said, hey, now let's go see. They opened the door and they look, hey, there's the Bobo Dow. And what they found was that children who watched the video of an adult beating the junk out of this Bobo Dow, they did the same thing, right? And then the children in the controlled condition who did not watch it, they were hugging it and carrying on. And so what does that mean? It means that maybe it means that with ambiguous stimuli for a child who's never seen a Bobo Dow, doesn't know what to do with it, maybe it's not necessarily that aggression is learned, but maybe they're just thinking that that's the way it's supposed to be treated, that it's a game. I don't know. But the idea is that clearly the exposure to it led to aggressive acts. Look at that kid, throwing it, tossing it, kicking it,
I hate clowns.
hitting it with a hammer. Look at that.
Yeah. They get what it deserved.
Nuts.
That little girl looks vicious in that middle picture.
Getting a
Nice
I
and
know.
impressed. You should be proud. If you're gonna wear it, you're gonna fight in it.
In the other corner, they have a hot poker they're waiting to pull out on the thing. So, yes, there are some physiological influences, right? Like alcohol increases aggression. The link is well documented. Why? Because alcohol reduces anxiety and our inhibitions. It disrupts our information processing, meaning it disrupts decision making. It also disrupts how we perceive things, right? The think drink effect. The expectations about the effects of alcohol will influence behavior more than the amount of alcohol drunk. Meaning, if you think that you're going to get drunk, you will get more drunk, even if you're drinking a non-alcoholic beverage. Where they literally tested this. They had people drinking non-alcoholic beer, didn't tell them they were drinking non-alcoholic beer, and told them it was going to be, really alcoholic or whatever. And they acted drunker than skunkers. If we experience pain, that will increase our aggression. Makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I stubbed my toe and I want to punch right through the wall.
Yeah. Get away from me, Khaleesi. Discomfort, right? If we are uncomfortable, that will increase aggression, like heat, humidity, air pollution, offensive odors, right? You want to get some scornful looks, you want to get pushed, drop a hot one in an elevator. See what people do. Not gonna like you.
Hmm.
People who live closer to dumps, like what do you call those things?
Dumps.
No,
Oh, slum. Slums.
no,
Mobile
garbage
homes.
dump,
I don't know.
where they bury garbage.
Dump-
Landfill,
there we go.
landfills. People who live closer to landfills, communities who live close to landfills where it's stinky, they have more aggression in those areas.
Isn't that kind of a statistic though? Because it generally tend to be lower income, and that's alone tagged with a bunch of different stereotypes. Could that
Yes.
potentially be
Yes.
different things at
Yes.
work?
Yes, but what we're gonna learn soon is that, and so what you're talking about is the effect of deprivation, being deprived, being without, is not an absolute effect. It's a relative effect, and I'll explain what that means in a second. So it addresses riots. You'll see what I mean by that. Yeah,
Okay.
which is very, which pertains, which is very current. It's very, contemporary. It's very what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Relative to
Oh, I don't
what's-
use words I can't spell.
Relevant.
relevant is the word. Thank you. Frustration aggression theory. Remember the empathy altruism hypothesis? Basically, if you feel bad or you feel for someone, you'll help. Well, this is kind of like the same idea. In this case, if you're frustrated, you're going to aggress. So the idea of frustration, the perception that you're being blocked from attaining a goal, increases the probability of an aggressive response, right? So this is what road rage is about. Look at this. She's going to punch that windshield. Who even holds their fist backwards? Like, I don't understand that.
Maybe she's singing.
Yeah.
Ah!
She's listening to like her favorite Godsmack jam.
Yeah. In that powder blue car. The red interior.
Right.
Terrible.
So the idea is that we want to get to something. We want something. There's a goal, right? And when we're prevented from reaching that goal, we become frustrated. That's the frustration. Frustration leads to aggression, is the idea. So the closer you are to the goal, the more frustrated you're going to be. What does this mean? It means you're in a long line. You're waiting for something. Buy a ticket, check out at a grocery store, something. Okay. And someone cuts right halfway through the line. You're like, son of a gun, right? That's how you'd feel, right? Now let's say, and they actually tested this. They waited until people were like the next up. They went through a big long line with like 20, 30 people in front of them. They waited until they got all the way up to the second place. And then they had a Confederate step in front of them. And what they found was the closer you are to that goal, the more aggressive or frustrated you're going to feel. Be like, I waited all this time. I'm so close. And now you just block me from it? I think not. But if they're like way back and someone cuts, they're far less likely to aggress.
Is aggression opposite to kindness?
No, because you can
Or
be
does-
kind of aggressive.
Are you sure?
I don't
No,
know.
because sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes this happens. Somebody gets your turn and you feel like he's an idiot. I will let him pass, or it's okay. It's okay.
I'm going to change the word kindness
Yeah.
to aggression is the opposite of pro-social behavior.
Okay.
And the reason why is because kindness can be interpreted in different ways. There are different reasons to behave kindly, and there are different reasons to behave aggressively. Because sometimes you could be behaving aggressively, but be justified. Like let's say someone's trying to steal your kid, right? You're going to behave aggressively. Yeah. So
very aggressive.
Yes, exactly. See, parents is crazy, Mimi. I know. Okay. So the unexpectedness of frustration, the more unexpected the frustration is, leads to more aggression. But frustration doesn't always lead to aggression, right? It will increase our anger, and then the anger, right, increases our readiness to aggress. So the frustration aggression link depends on the size and the strength of the person responsible for your frustration, right? The example in your text is saying, well, let's say it was some little bippy squeak that jumped in line in front of you versus a linebacker, right? Seriously. So the size and the strength of the person responsible will determine whether or not you actually aggress, right? If you're looking up at some big person and they cut in front of you, you're like, well, that happened, and there's not much I can do about that, right? So,
Oh.
so if you don't have the ability to retaliate based on the size and strength, that that's something else there too.
Well, I'll retaliate.
But that person's ability to retaliate isn't just based on the size and strength of the individual. It's also like let's say you literally just cannot do it. Like you're being blocked from retaliating. Like so let's say you're bigger than the person, but you're also like watching your sister's kid or something. You're like, oh, you're lucky. You're lucky. That's all I gotta say. You pippy squeak jumping in front of me. And then lastly, the proximity of the person, right? So the farther they are from you, the less likely you are to aggress. So the likelihood of our aggression is reduced when we experience frustration, when the experience is understandable. Meaning, the person didn't. Did you ever have someone cut in front of you in line because they didn't know a line was there?
Yep.
Yeah, right. So you're like, oh, whoa. It's all right, but back there, pal. No offense, I get it. You're good. Yep. Oh, sorry. No problem. But way back there, Nancy. All right. If the frustration is legitimate and unintentional. Now, deprivation and aggression. It says relative, not absolute deprivation is linked to frustration and aggression. What does that mean? It means that people who live without, who have without, like, for example, children who don't have the best toys, children who don't have the best clothing, the best resources, the best house, the best whatever. Children who don't have 3 square meals a day or whatever, safety and security, they're no more likely to aggress than the child who has a superfluous amount of it, right? So an impoverished versus an enriched environment, they're no more likely to aggress. When they are likely to aggress is when they think about it, right? So when a person says, it could be a child who has all the things in the world, but if that child says, wait a minute, Susie has the new Malibu Stacy, I want the new, why don't I have the new right? And feeling like I deserve the new Malibu Stacy because I did all my work. I'm a good kid. I haven't broken any rules. And just because the kid has a lot of stuff doesn't mean the kid didn't, is a bad kid. That's fine. Some people have more than others. That's fine. Okay. But let's say the kid did all the things they're supposed to do with the expectation that they would get, the top Malibu Stacy doll. And then Susie walks in like, what the heck is that? And Susie's like, it's the new Malibu Stacy. It's the bubblegum series, or I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Right. So now whatever this child's name is really upset. So that relative deprivation, that's what predicts aggression. Right. So these riots that we see, right? We don't see riots in Los Angeles and Chicago and New York and Detroit and whatever. You don't see riots all the time. You only see riots when people go, wait a minute. We know, look, they accept the fact, they don't like it. They understand that they have less in these inner city dwellings, in these inner city communities. But as soon as they go, wait a minute, you're killing Black people. We deserve, now they're comparing what they think they should have and what they actually have. So when George Floyd died as a result of mistreatment from law enforcement, black people and white people and whatever of all backgrounds came out and said, look it, that's an example of relative deprivation, and now we're going to aggress. Okay. Now, prior to that happening, there weren't constant marches and protests and riots. There wasn't any of that, unless there was another example of relative deprivation, Rodney King and Breonna Taylor, and that's when these things happen. Do you understand what this is saying? It's saying that people begin to aggress when they notice that they're not getting what they should, and in this case, it's human rights. It's a right to equality, essentially, equal treatment, essentially. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I love how passionate you are about it.
Thank you. I know. And you know what, Autumn? When I'm like this, some of you are like, right on, Cone. Right the frick on. Then there are some students that are like, no way. Nope.
Yeah.
I do not agree. And it happens every semester in every class. Sometimes there are discussions and sometimes there aren't. I respect everyone's opinion. I don't agree with everyone's opinion.
I just like passionate men, and I'm lonely. So continue.
Yeah, I mean, I like passionate men as well, but I'm not lonely.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yes, fantastic.
Bombastic. Okay. Provocation and reciprocation, right? Being provoked. So when
Yes.
provoked with aggression, people may reciprocate with aggression.
Mhm.
When will we not reciprocate? When the provocation was unintentional. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to bump into you and spill my coffee. I'm sorry, that was unintentional. Or if there are mitigating circumstances, right? But what does that mean? It means that if there are explanations for it.
You know why they're upset?
Yes, exactly. So what they did is this is what they did, right? They had, in this one experiment, they had volunteers participate in a study, and then they had the research lab assistant conduct the experiment, maybe fill out a questionnaire. They had them like, here, fill out this questionnaire. But the lab assistant intentionally offended them individually, one at a time, separately. But half of the people who participated in the study, half of them, before they were told, oh, so and so is going to be administering the survey, and they're going to be like, I feel bad. They could be talking to somebody else, and they're intentionally they want you to overhear the conversation. They're going to say, oh, yeah, poor Bob, he didn't get accepted into whatever program, and he's really upset about it, or his Gam is sick, or poor Bob, right? So then half of the group or half of the individuals knew beforehand that something was going on with Bob. Okay. And then Bob would offend them and say, all right, here's a survey, you stupid head. Right. And then the other half just went to take the survey. And then the assistant was like, here's a survey, you stupid head. But then after they took the survey, they said to the individual, or they exposed the individual to Bob's circumstances. Now, then they asked them, how do you feel about Bob? The individuals who were told before they took the survey that Bob was in a bad mood and, it was understandable and all this stuff, they didn't aggress back toward Bob. They didn't say anything about Bob because they knew Bob was having a really bad day, right? But the individuals who didn't know until after, they didn't like Bob and they aggressed to Bob. They reciprocated. Like, who you calling stupid? Why you
I'll
look at
steal
me?
your little pea coat you're wearing, Bob.
Is that a candy? Okay, so this is where I wanted to stop. All right. We're not do I want to, yeah, I'm gonna stop recording. And now we're gonna cover the exam.